How do scientists identify excess heat in cold fusion? Imagine trying to find a tiny flicker of light in a dark room full of bright lamps. That's what scientists face when they look for extra heat from cold fusion. Cold fusion experiments aim to produce more heat than normal chemical reactions can explain, but detecting that tiny surplus is tricky. They use special measurement techniques called calorimetry to do this. The main idea is to measure heat in two ways. First, by tracking how much the temperature drops across a barrier that conducts heat, which depends on knowing how well heat moves through materials. Second, by measuring how much a material's temperature rises when it absorbs heat based on its heat capacity. These methods help scientists estimate how much heat is being produced. One popular method is called isoparabolic calorimetry. It measures temperature differences across a barrier and calculates heat flow. Another is the Seebeck method, which also looks at temperature differences but uses different physics principles. Flow calorimetry measures how hot a liquid gets when it flows through the system, giving an idea of heat production. Each method has its quirks, and scientists must be careful to avoid mistakes. A tricky problem appears in double-wall isoparabolic calorimetry. When a cell produces heat, you need to measure both the heat coming out and the heat escaping. But there's a delay in detecting heat loss compared to electrical power input. If the power changes quickly, the measurements might falsely show extra heat, even if none is happening. This measurement lag can fool researchers into thinking cold fusion is producing excess heat when it is not. Calibration is vital. Before running experiments, scientists calibrate their calorimeters using a known heat source, like a resistor that produces joule heat. This helps them understand how to convert temperature readings into actual heat amounts. Without proper calibration, all the measurements could be off, making the results unreliable. The original cold fusion experiments by Pons and Fleischmann claimed to produce about 100 times more heat than chemical reactions could generate. But they also faced issues. They estimated heat loss through gases escaping from the cell, which introduced big uncertainties. They also didn't stir the heavy water inside the cell, causing uneven temperatures and inaccurate readings, like trying to measure the temperature of a pot of soup without stirring it. Modern research focuses on measuring reaction products like helium, neutrons, or excess heat directly. Some scientists report producing up to 40% more heat than the electrical energy they put in, but these results are hard to reproduce consistently. The key test is whether the excess heat remains and grows stronger as measurement techniques improve. If it disappears when measurements get better, it probably wasn't real. Most groups trying to replicate cold fusion haven't found clear evidence of fusion happening. The few that claimed excess heat faced skepticism because their results couldn't be duplicated reliably. The scientific community labeled cold fusion as a form of pathological science, where researchers see patterns that aren't really there and measurement errors get mistaken for real effects. In the end, cold fusion shows how tricky it is to measure tiny signals and how the desire to find something extraordinary can sometimes lead scientists astray. The challenge remains to develop better ways to detect and verify these mysterious energy phenomena, keeping the search for new forces and energies alive.